morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Ann Johnson. I'm the Director of Campus Progress at the Center for American Progress. And I am so proud to stand here today with senators, young activists, and students from around the country who are here to tell Congress to stop the Stafford interest rates from doubling on July 1st. Yeah, as young Americans, we know that pursuing a higher education is a proven path to success. And we know that investing in higher education strengthens our economy. As a student from a working class family, I relied on affordable student loans, grants, and working 2 jobs to get through college. Now, I'm still paying off those loans, but as a first-generation college graduate, my degree from the University of Minnesota got me where I am today. Though this is not the time to play partisan politics, too many students depend on affordable loans to be able to get through school. We need a bipartisan solution from Congress that keeps the current interest rate steady. The future of our economy depends on the next generation of the workforce being able to lead, innovate, and compete in a global economy. Access to an affordable higher education will make the difference for millions of young people around the country. Time is running out. In just 24 days, rates will double for over 7 million students. This increase in interest rates will mean an average of over $1,000 in additional payments, and it's time for Congress to act. Students and their families are speaking out around the country. Over 600,000 people have signed petitions calling on Congress to keep the Stafford interest rates at 3.4%. Students and their families are speaking out in their communities, holding press events, rallies, conference calls, signing petitions, and talking with their members of Congress in their home districts. And today we have over 200 young people from around the country who are here to meet with their senators and key staff members and tell them why it's so critically important that for our families and for our communities, that we keep interest rates low. A huge thank you to these students for being here and for sharing their stories, and for the 42 organizations that allowed their interns to participate in this day today. Thank you for being a part of this, and we're so excited that you're all here and able to stand with us in this important issue. Our next speaker is Senator Jack Reid. He's fought tirelessly on behalf of students around the country, helping to make college affordable, and he helped pass the largest investment in college aid in history. Senator Jack Reid succeeded Clyburn Pell as Rhode Island's 43rd senator. Like Senator Pell, Reid is a champion of higher education and a fierce protector of the Pell Grants. He believes that education should not be limited to a lucky few, but the right of every American with skill and determination. Reid has been working on this issue long before it made national headlines. He introduced the Student Loan Affordability Act back in January of 2012. Senator Jack Reid.
Thanks, Ann. Thank you. Thanks very much, Ann, for your inspiring words. I also want to thank my colleague and friend, Senator Tom Harkin, who, along with Senator Sherrod Brown, have really been leading this effort and moving it forward. We have a deadline, 25 days left. Congress has to act before the interest rate is doubled. And as Ann indicated, it was January, much colder day, when I was here with Representative Joe Courtney to introduce the Student Loan Affordability Act. And at that time, there was significant Republican opposition. In fact, their budget reflected doubling of the rate. But we've seen a little thawing. Now, we're not quite there yet, but we've seen a little thawing since that cold January day. We are closer, but we're not there. Back in January, many Republicans scoffed at the idea. But thanks to students and families across the country, they've raised their voices, they've made themselves heard. Congress is finally beginning to get the message to fix the student loan interest rate. It matters to middle-income Americans all across this country. It matters to people who are trying to build better lives for themselves, to the parents who want to see the dream of a college education a reality for their children. It matters to our shared economic future, because the single most important investment we can make in a productive and prosperous America is the education of our young people. So let me thank groups like the Campus Progress, the USSA, the US FIRG, Young Invincibles, and Rebuild the Dream, that you pushed this issue to the forefront. We're getting close, and we can't stop now. We've got to keep marching forward. We've now shifted from the issue of if we do this to how do we do this. And we continue to get mixed signals from the Republicans. Governor Romney claimed that he doesn't want the interest rate to double, but hasn't said much since then. He's not taking the lead, as I think he should in this era. Last week, Speaker Boehner apparently told his members behind closed doors that we wouldn't act before July 1st. But after those remarks became public, suddenly there's a new proposal for new offsets, like changes to student loan programs on Medicaid. But that would just take resources from those who are struggling already, low and middle income Americans, to pay for this issue of the student fix. The fact is that fixing the student loan interest rate has never been on their priority list, but with these students and our efforts, it's getting there, and we've got to make sure it gets across the finish line. We're eager to work to a serious bipartisan solution, but we shouldn't pay for this program by cutting other important programs in education and health care. Every year I hold a financial aid workshop for students and parents up in Rhode Island, people who are trying to figure out how do they get their children through college. And the same advice that applies there applies here. We've got to start talking early and honestly. We've got to do our homework. We've got to make sound decisions. We've got to get this across the finish line. It's a priority. It has to get done. And now let me turn it over to the chairman of the Health Committee, the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee, someone who has led the fight on this issue, Chairman Tom Harkin.
Senator Reid, thank you. And again, we always refer to each other as leaders and stuff, but the one person who has really stood out on this issue from the very beginning has been Senator Reid. And I want you all to know that he has been in the forefront of this fight and continues to be in the forefront of this fight. I suspect that the Republican leadership here in the Congress really want the interest rates to double on July the 1st on student loans. Now, what's my suspicion based on? It's based upon the actions of the Republicans, not their words. Look what's happened. Just follow this train. They had the Ryan budget. In committee, an amendment was offered to specifically keep the interest rates at 3.4%. Every Republican voted no. And then they passed the Ryan budget, which again would allow the interest rates to double. We had 4 Republican budgets offered on the Senate floor here not too long ago. Kind of message budgets. Every single one of them would have permitted the interest rates to double. None of them ever had it included in it to keep the interest rates at 3.4%. Then we offered our budget, our proposal on the student loans, with the offset of closing a loophole, and every Republican voted no. So you see a kind of a pattern emerging here. They say they want the interest rates to stay down, but their actions belie their words. And now we get to this, where Speaker Boehner, it's been reported, obviously accurately, told his caucus that this is a, quote, phony issue. And then, as Jack said, 2 hours later, when after this gets out into the press, 2 hours later, they send a letter to the president to cover their tracks. So here's where I think we're headed. The Republicans really do want the interest rates to double. And why? Then they can blame Obama. Then this is presidential election year politics at its worst. They double, they blame the president. And the average American out there who doesn't understand the ins and outs of Washington and how all this stuff happens, well, he's the president and the interest rates doubled, and the Republicans are blaming him. Well, he must have been responsible for it. That's what I believe is happening here right now. Again, if the Republicans are serious, really serious about keeping his interest rates at 3.4%, they won't be writing phony letters to the president. They'll sit down with us and start to negotiate. We have said to them, we're willing to sit down. We're willing to negotiate on this. And yet, they write letters to the president, and the speaker tells his caucus that it's a phony issue. So again, I think that the Republicans are playing a presidential election year politics with students and their families around the country. And every student and every family in America whose interest rates would go up on July the 1st ought to know that it's because they want to defeat President Obama that they're playing this game. So I want to make my words very clear. That's what it's about. Nothing more or less than that. Now it's my opportunity to introduce Tiffany Lofton. Tiffany is the Vice President of the U.S. Student Association. She's a recent graduate of the University of California at Santa Cruz. Tiffany.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. My name again is Tiffany Dina Lofton. I graduated from UC Santa Cruz this past June, and I currently serve as the Vice President for the United States Student Association. It is a pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, we're here again to make sure that education stays right and that Congress is actually acting and not playing party politics, as the senators have said, with higher education. And 7.4 million students around the country who will be affected by these interest rates if they do go up 6.8% on July 1st. I want to thank Campus Progress, and I want to thank all of the students who came out today and are lobbying our legislators on this very important issue. USSA is the country's oldest and largest student-run, student-led organization. And we've been around since 1947 fighting for higher education and making sure that education is a right for everyone in this country. Every single person who wants to obtain a higher education should be able to have one. We have a lot of barriers to higher education, including cost, including access and affordability, and these are one of those barriers. Our students and our organization believe that a short-term goal for this is to pass a bill that keeps it at 3.4%. We've been fighting for a permanent fix, of course, for a really long time, but having a 3.4% interest rate double in July 1st would burden thousands and thousands and thousands of students around the country. And it would be on average an estimated $1,000 in addition to their loans that they're taking out right now. I graduated, like the Senator said, from UC Santa Cruz this past June and currently have $28,000 in debt. I just started paying mine back about 2 months ago. They told me that my monthly payback, my monthly college cost payback to my student loans would be $517 a month, which I am unable to afford working for a nonprofit organization right now. I know that there are thousands of other students, millions of other students who are graduating and unable to find work, having trouble finding work and aren't able to pay that much money back as well. I don't have any private loans, so this issue directly affects me. My younger siblings chose not to go to school because of the cost of higher education. My younger sister's in the Air Force in North Carolina. My little brother's been missing for about 3 years. So I'm the first of my mom's children to be able to go to school, and she's very, very proud of me, but is unable to support me because she's a single working mother. She went back to community college and is unable to provide or help me with financial support or living support here out in DC. We know that student debts have passed $1 trillion. That's a shame. We know that the average student loan debt that students graduate with today is $25,000 in debt. That's a shame. And there are a lot of barriers to underrepresented communities and low-income communities that don't have access to higher education that currently, right now, would be very much burdened by this $1,000 in addition to their student loans that they're taking out already. There are a lot of hardships. We have as students, we have jobs, we have family problems, we have classes to go to, we have homework to worry about, midterms, finals. We're caught up with working with jobs, maybe sometimes 2 jobs. I work 2 full-time jobs as a residential assistant and a student body officer at my campus, and still dealt with all of my full class schedule, dealt with my family, dealt with relationships and friendships at home, tried to participate and explore my skills in extracurricular activities, and still have to worry about the interest rates going up on student loans, so still have to worry about the cost of tuition rising all over the country. Tuition's been rising, and the problem, of course, is the priority of higher education. I was a Pell Grant recipient, I was a TRIO student, and took advantage of all of the resources that are available to me as a person, pushing me towards accepting a higher education. And we want to make sure that those barriers are teared down for students around the country so they'd be able to have the same opportunities that many of these congressmen are able to afford. And are able to go through. And so we know that they can't afford $1,000 in interest rates going up. That'd be an average. That's rent for somebody. That's a computer cost for somebody. That's books for a semester. That's travel from and to campus. That's taking out a bunch of things for school supplies and supporting, eating and cost of living and all those other great stuff that students already have to pay for. That's $1,000, and it's a lot of money for an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old to take out before they go to school. And so we're here. Hundreds of students are behind me. Thousands of students around the country are going to be participating today in writing letters to their editorials. They're writing opinion editorials. They're calling their congressmen. They're writing letters to their congressmen to ask them to act now and not wait for 25, 24 more days until the interest rate comes up. We're asking them to act now, like we've been asking Congress to act for a while, to make sure that they pass a bill that says that we're going to keep the interest rates right now at 3.4%, and then we're going to work towards a permanent fix later on in the future, right after this is passed. And so I want to thank you all, of course, for being here and supporting this cause. And if you're affected, of course, share your story. I encourage you to share your story. And I have an awesome opportunity to introduce someone who will share their story. His name is Christopher Dowdell, and he is the first in his family to go to college. A hardworking student who is currently facing more than $40,000 in student loan debt. He's determined to pay it off, but like myself and everyone else behind me up here, he wants Congress to do the right thing today and to stop making college harder for students who are able to access it like it already is. And so I want to welcome Christopher to the press conference.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Senator Harkin and Senator Reid. My name is Christopher Dowdell. I'm a rising senior at Frostburg State University, and I live in Maryland. Basically, I'm a first-generation college student. Ever since I was little, my parents did stress that college was very important for me. I was also homeschooled during high school, so I never had access to guidance counselors and teachers to help me with the educational process of applying, for college or anything like that. So I had to do that whole process on my own. Thankfully, I was able to go to Prince George's Community College, and I attended there for 2 years. I graduated and got my associates there, which afterwards I transferred to Frostburg State University, where I am now, studying mass communication. Since I've been in college, I've had to work several jobs to help pay, for my college expenses, in addition to taking out Stafford loans. While I've been at Frostburg, I was able to make the dean's list during my first semester there, so I worked really hard for that. When I graduate, I'll be, like Tiffany said, I will be about $40,500 in debt, with no guarantee of a job, to help me pay that off. Despite the high debt that I have incurred, I have no regrets. I think my college education did give me the opportunity, will help me have more opportunities available for me, if I didn't had gone to college. And so I'm here today to ask Congress, to do the right thing to help college students to invest in, the future generation, and to invest in the future workforce, and to not further burden us anymore. And I think, and I'm here, hoping that, they'll do the right thing, step up to the plate. Thank you.
All right.
Are there any questions?
I think listening to these students, we just say rest our case. So articulate. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Harkin, have you heard anything from the White House about the plan that the Speaker sent over?
Have I heard anything from the White House? No. Again, my response is, this is something that we decide here in the Congress. Why are they writing a letter to the President? Unless this has to do with election year presidential politics. You see what my point is?
I do.
So why aren't they writing a letter to us? Why aren't they coming and saying, let's sit down and negotiate this out? We've said we're willing to it any hour of the day or night. We're willing to sit down, but they won't come to us. They want to write a letter to the President. Yeah.
Are any of the 4 offsets that the Republicans proposed in the letter acceptable to Democrats, or any other combination of 4?
Well, you see, here's what they did. Well,
no, go ahead, Tom.
What they did is they took. See, a budget is a comprehensive document, right? So the president's budget, which is revenues and expenditures, is balanced out with a lot of things. What they did is they went in there and cherry-picked a few things out of there and said, oh, we'll use these as offsets. You can't do that because this is part of a comprehensive budget. The short answer to your question is no, those are not acceptable. They're not acceptable. As Senator Reid said, You're taking money from low-income families, poor people, to help keep the interest rates low on poor students. That doesn't make much sense. So no, they're not accepted.
And we have, for our proposal, it closes an egregious loophole in the tax code where subject-press corporations are avoiding payroll taxes. It was so bad, it's criticized by the Wall Street Journal, criticized by the late columnist Robert Novak. So, you know, we are trying to do something to help students and not hurt middle and low-income families simultaneously. When they get on that wavelength, then I think we can have a fruitful and productive discussion.
Senators, House Republicans have already passed a bill, and they're calling on Majority Leader Reid to do something. Have you heard anything within the caucus on what the next step in the Senate is?
Wait a minute. We had a vote on a bill. We had our bill, and every Republican voted against it. I mean, wouldn't even let us bring it up for debate and stuff. They just voted against it. So, you know, they don't have filibusters in the House. We still do in the Senate, which we had to get rid of, but that's another story for another time. Okay. No, I think that the issue is that will they sit down with us and try to negotiate something out rather than doing these writing letters and coming up with phony offsets like the other one on the prevention trust fund. That wasn't going anywhere either. As Jack said, we came up with an honest proposal. One which I might note that some conservative Republicans in the past wanted to close the loophole when they found out it benefited John Edwards. But now they don't want to close it when it will benefit students. You got to wonder about that.
Senator Harkin, in the meantime, are there any other alternate offsets that your caucus is discussing?
Well, look, we're more than willing to look at whatever else is out there if the Republicans want to sit down and honestly negotiate with us. We have put, I think, an honest offer on the table on the closing this loophole, which has been widely supported in the past. And if they want to sit down and negotiate, they should come to us and say, let's start talking and let's see if we can come up with something that's mutually agreeable. They have not done that yet.
Sorry. You said that you don't think the GOP wants to pass this. Mr. Reid said it's a question of not if, but how or when. Those aren't exactly the same thing. How do you reconcile those two thoughts on this?
Well, maybe our leader's a little more optimistic than I am.
I'm sorry, I meant this Mr. Reid.
Oh, this Reid. Oh, he's probably more optimistic than I am.
You mean the young Mr. Reid. By the way, you do not confuse the senators and the young students, so I give you credit for acuteness. I think Tom has made a very, very important point. Actions do speak louder than words. And if you look at the Ryan budget, if you look at the votes that have been taken, and you look at this sort of hastily contrived letter sent to the president, that's not yet the kind of meaningful dialogue we have to have. Maybe I'm just hopeful that we can do that before July 1st. And I tell you, the difference will be standing right behind us. When congressmen and women across this country hear from these students and their families that this is going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them in the short run and in the long run. Because I think, as is so well stated, when you're leaving college with $20,000 or $40,000 worth of debt, you're not able to buy a home 5 or 6 years later that I think our generation could do. You're not ready to take a job you want to take because you're really doing anything you can to try to pay off your loan. These voices, I think, will make the difference. That's my only hope. I mean, just looking at what the speaker is doing and what others are doing, that's not a very hopeful sign. The hope is here.
I might just say, I always believe in the redemption of human nature. I mean, I do believe in that. But I see no signs yet. As I stand here today, I see no signs from Republicans that they want to change their course. That they will go and let this interest rate double on July the 1st and blame President Obama for it. Now, if by the sunset today they want to redeem themselves, fine. We'll sit down.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much.